On the eve of his crucifixion, Jesus prays to his Father, I have given them your word, and the world hated them because they are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. I do not ask that you take them from the world, but you keep them from the evil one. Hey everyone, welcome back to Aliens on Earth. This is season 2, episode 28. And we're continuing along our journey through the minor prophets, which we know and we've learned that they're anything but minor in their impact. But first of all, I just wanted to give a huge welcome to our new listeners joining us for the very first time. And for those of you who have been consistent in our journey through all the twists and turns of the Old Testament, I want to thank you guys as well. We call this podcast Aliens on Earth for a very specific reason. So we find our identity in the words of Jesus. As we know in John 17, he prays for his disciples and he says, they are not of this world, even as I am not of this world. So he wasn't asking for us to be taken out of the world, but to be kept from the evil one. And the evil one meaning the evil influences, the evil one who wants to steal, kill, and destroy our faith, our walk, and even our mortal bodies. And while we're in it, we're a community of aliens because our citizenship is of another kingdom. And yet we've been sent to this kingdom to represent our king, who is Jesus. And we're grounded in the word of God so that we don't get swept away by the worldly culture or the ways of the world. So with that being said, last week we dove deep into the book of Amos. We saw Jesus as the plumb line, the perfect standard of righteousness, and the one who promises to rebuild the fallen booth of David. We learned that God's heart for justice, it isn't just about rules and regulations, but it's about a relationship that bears fruit and honestly how we treat the least of these. So today we're gonna dive into one of actually the shortest book in the Old Testament, the book of Obadiah, which only has 21 verses, but those 21 verses pack a punch. They echo from the mountains of Edom straight into the throne of Christ. So with that being said, buckle your seatbelts, grab your coffee, get your notebook, and let's dive into the book of Obadiah. Hey guys, real quick, before we jump in, if you've been blessed by this podcast or find it impactful, I'd like you to hit the follow button. Be a partaker of spreading God's truth by sharing this with your friends, coworkers, family, or even strangers. Let's spread the truth of Christ together. Now, back to this episode. So, the very first point I want to talk about is what we call the high places or the heart of pride. And we can see that in Obadiah from verse 1 through 4. Obadiah's vision is a heavy word against Edom. And to understand Edom, we have to go back to this family feud of Jacob and Esau. Jacob and Esau are brothers, the sons of Isaac, who is the son of Abraham. So if you guys know, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that lineage, Jacob and Esau were brothers. And they had this sort of rivalry and animosity towards each other, which we won't really get deeply into, but Jacob stole Esau's blessing or took what belonged rightfully to Esau, and Esau gave that up. These guys are pretty much sworn enemies, although they're brothers. So the Edomites are the descendants of Esau, and they live in this high rocky fortress of Petra. So imagine this for a second. Imagine a city that's carved into red sandstone cliffs that's naturally fortified, looking down on the valley. Those of you, I don't know if you're familiar, but when you have the higher ground in any kind of battle or military expedition, typically the one that has the higher ground has the advantage because they have a clear line of sight. They are able to see further down. They're able to be fortified or sheltered by whatever mountains or hills that they're on top of. So these people felt invincible. And Obadiah says this in verse 3. He says, the pride of your heart has deceived you. You who say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? So they thought that their geographic advantage, their cliffs and high places made them untouchable. And they were like the elite of the ancient world. safe in their high places. But think about that for a second. That's something that can easily happen to anyone, especially when we feel as though our position or our strength gives us the advantage over others, and that pride can kind of kick in. We've seen this story before, similar to Goliath, right? The massive Philistine army was so cocky and confident because they had the cheat code. They had Goliath. And so they were flexing on the Israelites, like, hey, you guys, we've got Goliath, good luck. And truth be told, Israel was shook. They were hiding out. Nobody wanted to face Goliath because they had the advantage. This guy was too big, right? So where do we see Jesus in all of this? Or where do we see how this connects? In a radical but still beautiful contrast, while Edom climbed the rocks to escape judgment and fortify themselves, Jesus, the true king, he voluntarily descends from the highest place into the universe, to the lowest place on earth. This is sort of kind of like the law of reversal. In the Old Testament, the Mount of Esau represents this man-made security and the height of human ego. But in the New Testament, Jesus shows us that whoever exalts himself will be humbled. We see that in Matthew 23, verse 12. Jesus is the anti-Edom, or he is the lowly king. Edom's pride led to their extinction. We also saw how the story of Goliath ended too. He was brought down by a lowly shepherd boy who wasn't even fit for battle. He couldn't even fit into any armor. Think about that for a second. Ultimately, Christ's humility led to our exaltation. He's the one who brings down the proud, but he lifts up the humble from the dust. So what does this mean for us? If we're honest, we all have a sort of Edom area in our lives where we feel untouchable. Maybe because our bank accounts are so fat, or our degrees, our accolades, all the certifications and things that we've accomplished. Maybe it's our social media following, or our looks, or our style. Even it could be our correct theology that we take pride in. Or maybe it's our children's success, or how holy we are and how we abstain from outward sin better than that of our neighbors. We sort of build these fortresses of self-sufficiency, and we either knowingly or unknowingly hold ourselves higher or mightier than others, seeming to have a somewhat illusion of an advantage. Some of us think that our way is the only way and that we're far above reproach or correction. This is the very pride that leads to our ultimate demise. And I want to challenge you. Identify your high place. What's the thing or things that you rely on that make you feel superior, or that kind of stroke your pride? Is it the career? Is it the clean lifestyle? Is it whatever it is? I challenge you to descend. Choose an act of humility, or whether that's in thought or deed. This week, be intentional. Something that costs you your pride and brings no recognition at all. If Christ could leave the splendors of heaven for a manger, we can leave our pedestals for the sake of a neighbor or for the sake of a cause. And honestly, it brings delight to the Lord. And that leads us to our second point. This second point touches on the betrayal of brotherhood. We see in chapter 1 from verse 10 through 14, the sort of crux or the meat of Obadiah's indictment, or his edict to Edom's, is that their behavior when Jerusalem was being destroyed. He sees that, and these were relatives. These were cousins. The Edomites were an extension of Israel. But instead of helping their brother Jacob, the Edomites stood on the sidelines. They watched the Babylonians invade, and they didn't lift a finger. And honestly, what's worse than that, they even cheered it on. They stood at the crossroads to catch the Jewish refugees and hand them back over to the enemy. Obadiah says in verse 11, "On the day that you stood aloof, you were like one of them." And honestly, to God, silence in the face of a brother's suffering is a crime of commission. And you may be thinking, okay, so how does this connect us to Christ? But this points directly to Christ, which is also known as the suffering servant. Think about this for a second. In the Garden of Gethsemane and on the cross, Jesus was the ultimate brother who was betrayed by those closest to him. So while Edom stood aloof during Israel's suffering, Jesus steps into our suffering. This is a Christophany of character. Obadiah reveals God's intense anger at those who abandon their family in need. Jesus is the fulfillment of the faithful brother. He is the one who stands in the gap, as Ezekiel 22:30 says. Rather than standing aloof on the sidelines, he didn't just watch our day of calamity from a distance. He took our calamity upon himself so we wouldn't have to face it alone. He is the brother born for adversity, as Proverbs 17:17 tells us. The impact is pretty great. And honestly, this impacts us because it defines that alien ethic. We are not allowed to be bystanders. In a digital age where, it's so easy to stand aloof, to watch the world burn from our screen and offer nothing but just a like or a comment or maybe a repost while people are being destroyed, the challenge is to jump in, to pray, to intercede, to be involved, to get in the mud, to get hands on, and be the brother that stands in adversity. Look for those kind of fugitives in your circle. Someone being gossiped about at work, someone facing a financial crisis, or someone being cut off by their social group. Instead of standing aloof to protect your own reputation, step into the gap. Be the brother or sister Christ was to you when you were at your lowest, defending the vulnerable, which is the most Christ-like thing to do in a selfish world. And that leads us to our third point. Here we're going to see the kingdom and the deliverer. In verse 15 to 21, Obadiah kind of ends with this huge shift. He moves from the local judgment of Edom to the day of the Lord. He promises that while Edom will be stubble, completely consumed, Mount Zion will be a holy place of escape. In verse 21, he says, "Deliverers shall ascend Mount Zion to rule Mount Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's." And that's amazing because this isn't just about ancient borders. It's about the final restoration of all things. This is a direct prophecy of the Messianic kingdom. The deliverer mentioned here points ultimately to Jesus, the great deliverer. He's the one who ascends the mountain, not to hide like Edom, but to rule with a restorative justice. When Obadiah says, "The kingdom shall be the Lord's," he's echoing the prayer Jesus taught us, "Thy kingdom come." Jesus didn't just come to save individual souls. He came to reclaim the entire territory of human history. He's the judge of Edom, the world's system of pride. And he's the joy of Zion, the home of the redeemed. Every knee will bow, including the kings of Edom. And honestly, that means that no injustice is permanent. If you feel like the bad guys are winning today, the nation's leaders or media figures or big corporations and all the elite, if you feel like the Edomites of our world are mocking our faith and values, Obadiah reminds us that the final word belongs to the king. Our hope isn't in political shifts, it's in the King of Zion. So live today as a citizen of that coming kingdom. If the kingdom belongs to the Lord, then your time, your money, and your future belong to him. So let's take that personally, audit our personal lives. Are we building our own small empire? Are we hiding up in the cliffs, developing this pride so we can have a competitive advantage in this short-term life on earth? Or are we investing in what actually lasts when the day of the Lord arrives? Maybe we need to identify something, if we don't already know it, that's in our hearts, that we've been hoarding for ourselves. And the challenge is surrender that into the Lord's kingdom, into his work. And I'll end with this. So Obadiah may be short, but its message is huge. Pride leads to failure, and brotherhood matters. Stepping into the gap, acting on what we see, and live like the king is coming. Don't hoard your stuff. Live, bring it to the king. Use it for his glory, for his kingdom. We're aliens here because we serve a king whose mountain, Mount Zion, is the only one that won't be leveled or shaken. So next week, we move out of this rocky heights of Edom and we move into the depths of the sea, the Mediterranean, into the belly of a great fish or whale. So we'll be diving into the book of Jonah. And you might think that, you know Jonah from the Sunday school big whale, Jonah got swallowed by a fish, but we're going to go and we're going to look past the whale and we're going to see the sign of Jonah, which is a really clear picture of Christ's death and resurrection. And we'll see a God whose mercy is so wide that it even scares his own prophets. So I just want to challenge you this week. Read Obadiah again. And as you read, ask yourself, am I standing aloof? Or am I building my pride? Am I hiding in the heights where I feel I have an advantage? Or am I standing with the king? So with that being said, you're listening to Aliens on Earth. I'm your host, Nate Gazal. Stay strange, stay faithful, and we'll see you in Nineveh next week. Peace.